Hello everybody, I'm Rachel Pugh and I'm part of the Employer Engagement team here at Robert Gordon University. And throughout this short presentation, I'm going to be talking about one of the key graduate skills of teamwork. There is no doubt that employers value your degree, but the soft skills that you're able to bring to a role and portray in the application and interview process are vital. Graduate employers are looking for well-rounded applicants, and over your years of education, sport, extracurricular activity and part-time jobs, you have developed these skills. It is now vitally important that you demonstrate them and make yourself stand out from the crowd. So, before we begin, I've got a question for you. What do the Avengers, Justice League, Kung Fu Panda and one of my all-time favourites, Cool Runnings, all have in common? Are they must-watch movies, movies about a bunch of misfits, or they require teamwork to succeed? I'll give you a moment to answer the question on your screen and then we can continue. Teamwork is one of the fundamental skills employers look for, regardless of what industry you're looking to go into. We have over 1,000 companies on the RGU Graduate Job Board, eHub Jobs, and the vast majority of these companies identify teamwork as a main skill they look for in graduates. And it's not just RGU partner organisations that say this. On numerous surveys, teamwork is a vital skill identified by graduate employers. It's constantly on graduate recruiters' high priority list and is constantly ranked within the top 10 skills on every survey. However, research shows that employers do not always find teamworking skills in graduates. In a survey conducted in 2015 by the Confederation of British Industry, 31% of those surveyed said teamworking skills were lacking in prospective employees. Yet teamworking skills are vital and appear in nearly every job specification. So why is this? Businesses thrive when people work in teams. It increases productivity, problems are solved, innovative solutions are found. You may be thinking, why can we not just have a team full of superstars, assigned individual elements to work on, and then pull that together? Being the best at something will allow me to thrive and I won't need to work in a team. Or, this is what I thought when I was a new student. I did a sport many would consider individualistic. I liked to compete and was far more comfortable while trying to shine than when trying to work with others. Throughout university and now in my work life, I have a very different concept. This is supported by an experiment conducted by Professor Muir and chickens. Professor Muir did an interesting and yet brilliantly simple experiment focusing on productivity. The experiment was originally brought to my attention by Margaret Heffman's TED Talk. So, what is this experiment and why is there a giant picture of chickens on your screen? Professor Muir had two groups of chickens, your average flock and your super flock, made up of 9 hens who were in their original flock seen as super chicken, or should I say, the one that was the most productive. He allowed these two groups to develop over 6 generations. So what was the result? The individual superstars were hyper-aggressive. There was only 3 hens left because the other 6 were plucked and continually attacked. Egg production plummeted. On the other hand, the average flock thrived, all plump and fully feathered, and their egg production increased. The super chickens were only superior when they could suppress others. Where every chicken was equal and working together, they thrived and production increased. It's always key to remember, a leader can't lead if there's not a team, and teamwork is far more than just being able to sit around a table and agree with others. It's vital that you can show you can collaborate, influence and compromise, but not always in that order. People working as a team and doing something they believe in, willing to listen, challenging each other's opinion and being creative can make a huge difference. Take Wilbur and Orville, supported by Charles Taylor, or should I call them by their team name, the Wright brothers. The brothers achieved the first powered, sustained and controlled aeroplane flight. They suppressed their own milestones 2 years later when they built and flew their first fully practical aeroplane. They weren't alone in their quest to take flight. The Secretary of the Smithsonian, Samuel Langley, a brilliant engineer himself, the only individual with government funding, and a team of graduates from Ivy League schools, were also competing to take flight first. Langley was driven to get a great invention comparable to that of Edison. So why did the Wright brothers succeed where Langley didn't? Some say that it was theory versus action. Whilst Langley focused on physics and how to create the perfect aircraft, the Wright brothers performed actions. They wanted to tinker with a machine that deal with theory alone. However, the real reason they succeeded, they weren't driven by money or finding fame. They worked together, played to their own skills, which were individual and unique, and were driven by a shared and common passion. They respected each other, and it is with these core elements of teamwork they succeeded and took flight. So we can see that teamwork is essential, and it is what employers are looking for. And from the example of the Wright brothers, that you need unique skills and a driven purpose to succeed. How you behave as a team member influences your team's performance. Langley was driven by money and success, not by the team's cooperation. Your behaviour, including your language and communication strategies, affect the team. It is vital that you're aware of the various personalities within a team and how to effectively and efficiently communicate with those team members. You may have heard of Belbin's team roles of shaper, implementer, completer, coordinator, team worker, resourcer, investigator, monitor, specialist, and plants. Or maybe Myers-Briggs' 16 different personality types. However, in the business world, these models are now seen as quite outdated, and a new thinking is being generated around teamwork. I'm going to briefly discuss this new framework being spoken about, but remember, you might identify with more than one role, and you may take on varied roles dependent on the team or the area you are focusing on. So what are these? The creative spark. The creative thinker, the one that thinks outside the box, if the box really exists. The creative spark tends to be more optimistic and likes to look for improvements. However, they tend to get bored quickly, especially if something takes too long. They are likely not to like the finer detail, so if you're dealing with this kind of thinker, make sure you keep it bright and brief. The productive dynamo, or the workhorse of the team, if you will. They like to tick things off the to-do list and enjoy achieving goals. They won't be content sitting around, but want to take action and can handle whatever is thrown at them. However, these sometimes get engrossed in the detail and may negate to ask questions or challenges whether things should be done. They focus on the detail, but sometimes this detail isn't always necessary. The team driver, the glue that holds the team together. They keep everyone organised and focused on the task, and they're not afraid to check up. They like to implement systems and keep everyone running and moving forward. However, they do tend to focus on the process rather than the bigger picture. They also conflict with people who do things in an ad hoc manner. Then you have the intellectual powerhouse, or the brains of the teams. When something goes wrong, everyone looks at this person to offer a solution or solve the problem. They often are highly analytical, and they can tell a good idea from a bad idea. Often these team members come across as pessimistic and are quick to judge other ideas. And finally, the maven influencer, the team promoter armed with their networks and persuasive powers to break through roadblocks and get people to support the idea of the team. They see the bigger picture, excelling at communication, with brilliant enthusiasm and entertainment skills, often marching and sometimes dancing to the beat of their own drum. They don't like to follow team processes. They can sometimes generate brilliant ideas, but they might need to be fine-tuned or reshaped. So, which one of these, or how many of these, do you identify with? So, what are the core elements of teamwork now that we've looked at examples of teamwork and the different types of people you often find in a team? The core elements include emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is about understanding and managing yourself and also understanding and managing others, especially important during times of conflict, pressure, stress, and when there is a looming deadline. Being aware of your own and others' emotional intelligence will allow for smooth working relationships. Then you have networking. Networking is a way we can exchange the information among our peers in the teams, and also our ideas are received by others. As we saw by the different personality types, networking could be vital in getting over an obstacle or finding a solution. Conflict resolution. Conflict is a natural part of any team, and don't let it scare you. However, being able to resolve conflict helps create a healthy and productive team and is one of the keys to success. It's essential that you know how to handle conflict and deal with conflict in a team situation. Negotiating a decision that the entire group will be happy with will increase the team's cohesion and help to ensure motivation is maintained within individual members. And finally, respect. Teamwork can only work when there is respect. Teams are built on respect for others. This will help reduce stress, conflict, and problems. When we are in a team with great respect, communication will improve and the team will be more successful. So now we've gone through the core elements of teams and the different personality types, we're going to look at more you. So, your examples of teamwork. I'm going to pause the presentation for a moment to allow you to think of an example of working within a team. Are you a student representative working with students and academics? Do you play sport and have thrived on a competitive on-field basis? Or have you enjoyed being on that committee? Do you participate in gaming or have a part-time job? Or have you completed your CISA award at level 1 or level 2? This will involve you working in a multidisciplinary team to come up with a solution. So now you have that example in your head, try and apply it to one of these common interview questions around teamwork. When you're answering interview questions, make sure you use the STAR method. Think of the situation, the task, the action and the result. More information about this can be found on our careers learning platform eHub. So these questions, you might be reading ahead of me a little and find one or two of them a little bit daunting. So let me go down in a bit more detail and see if I can help you. So the question, give me an example of a time when you worked well in a team. The employer expects an answer that is focused on the team environment. You need to be enthusiastic and genuine while truly conveying how you work and interact with other people. Make sure you use the STAR method to show what type of team, what your team was trying to achieve and what the results were in the end. Don't forget to mention your role in the team as well as the actions. The second part, share an example of a team project that failed. Nobody likes talking about failure, but this question will probably put you on the back foot. The employer here is looking for you to have learnt from the mistakes that you've made and what you would implement to make sure these mistakes are not made again. If you're answering this question, think of examples of overcoming a challenge or the resilience you have shown. What have you learnt about teamwork from this failure? And the third question on your screen, what strategies would you use to motivate your team? As you have seen throughout this short presentation, teamwork is about collaboration, but teams also need a leader. A leader doesn't need to control every element, but influence and keep things moving and progressing. If you're asked this type of question, think of the technique you have used and the end result. And finally, finishing on an oldie. This question is assessing how you will fit into the culture of the business or the office. So when you're asked what style of working do you prefer working in a group or by yourself? Or maybe you like a bit of both. Make sure you've done your research in advance. If the company that works exclusively online and you're a people's person that likes to work in teams, this might not be the right role or company for you. And by answering this question, the interviewer will be able to see that. So, thank you for listening, and I hope you found this short presentation on teamwork useful. Don't forget to check out other areas of the What's Next conference during the 15th to the 19th of March. Thank you.